Welcome to the Time In Podcast.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Time In Podcast. As you can see, I'm not only joined by my co-host Ewan. Ewan, how are we?
Not too bad.
We've had a few technical difficulties today.
This is technically still version 1.
None at all.
That's still version 1, but that's another story. And you might see as well, if you're watching us on YouTube, we are joined by Jordan, also known as Basicwitgirl. Thank you for joining us, Jordan. This is such a good intro.
That's because you thought the better intro. But I can play in version 2.
It's fine. Just roll with it. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
This intro is a perfect time to say this episode's going to be about beer, and none of us have consumed any until now. So you would think we have, but no. What we wanted to do is Jordan's a friend of the podcast, and for any of our longer listening viewers or listeners, whatever you want to call yourselves, she was a streamer feature in the past. She's an active streamer on Twitch under the alias of Basicwitgirl. We'll go into that in a little bit. But Jordan, I'm right in saying you're also a massive fan of beer and you have a bit of history in it as well.
It's a funny story. I feel like I'm here because when you had me on for the streamer feature, you asked me like, what's the origin of your name? And I was like, Basicwitgirl. Let me tell you, when I was in college, I worked at a craft beer brewery, and it was actually a beer that I helped come up with. It was a wit beer with sour cherries. I've got the link on Untapped if I can send it to you. But Basicwitgirl was it was a beer that they made, and they had as part of a small batch production, a limited release. And so like that was my thing, and I was like, this is so clever because I am very much so the definition of like a basic white girl, and this is like my wit beer. And I was like, I'm keeping this forever. This is my thing now. And yeah, so Basicwitgirl. A lot of people think that I just can't spell white when they come to my Twitch channel. They're just like, that's not how you basic white girl. I was like, it's wit girl. So yeah, when you invited me back, you're like, we're gonna talk about beer, and I was like, ooh, baby, let's do it. Let's do it.
Well, see when we used to do the streamer features, like, you never know what you're going to come across, because a lot of the people we didn't know too well, obviously we'd spoke quite a lot, and when you said, oh yeah, I'm massive into beer, I was like, what? Like, at no point did I think the name Basic Wit was going to evolve into a beer that you'd created. I was like, damn, that is pretty cool, actually. And you would never know.
Questions. Everyone's name came from something interesting. It wasn't just, I thought that sounded cool. Everyone had a story behind it, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. But so I'm going to crack open my beer now. I don't know what you guys having. So, Ewan, what you on? Birds and bees. Wow. Okay.
Yep. So I believe this is actually made for a pub that we've been to, Craig. They do great food. It's fairly local. I only tried this. I've been in the pub a few times. I only tried this for the first time last week, and it's like the ideal summer beer. Golden summer ale, just really nice.
Lovely.
That does sound nice.
It's like the barbecue kind of beer, if you know what I mean. You can imagine having a burger in one hand and this in the other hand. It's perfect.
Yeah. What about you, Jordan? So I'm interested to see the American composite of what we're having.
So I like I told you, I had to go to the grocery store and buy something less ABV than I normally am used to drinking. So I am drinking, it's called Wicked Awesome. It is an ESB from a craft brewery here in Texas. So it is an ESB, which I've heard is English style bitter or extra special bitter are the two things that I've heard. But it's like a nice, like very bready, toasty, delicious little. I wouldn't say it's like it's like my go-to year round. If I see this at a bar, I'm ordering this, and I didn't even know that they canned it until I went to the store today. So thank you guys so much.
Oh, nice.
Going to my life just by like telling me, making me go to the store.
The funny thing is, because of the time difference, it's about afternoon where you are. So this is a lunchtime beer.
Yeah, no, this is absolutely like a lunchtime beer. It's like a Thursday afternoon, and I've got, like 3 unopened beers here on my desk. Like, all right, let's go.
It's always funny.
The one with Alex, because he was in America. We went, because you're in America, you won't be drinking because it's lunchtime. He was like, no, I've got a whiskey.
Yes.
It's mad. We have a reputation. Anytime we collab with friends across the seas, it's always like, yeah, but you have to drink, and they're like, aye, okay, let's just do it.
Nobody says no. They're like, all right, fine, I'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to twist my arm too hard to be like, hey, have a beer with us. I'm like, yeah.
I think I literally
absolutely.
said, make sure you have some beers with you, and you're like, yeah, I've got sorted. You're fine. But
well, that was my problem. I had like IPAs and like barrel aged stouts, and I was like, now that I don't know if I can be drinking that at 2 in the afternoon on a.
I think as soon as it gets to that sort of just close to the sort of cola colour, then that's too dark for me, generally, for a beer.
Well, that's a great interjection for me, because this is where I look like an incredibly old man, and I've not chose these beers wisely. I have actually went for...
Timmy John Smiths.
No.
Man.
I have went to the very north of Scotland. I've tried to pick 3 beers from all parts of the country, and I've went to Orkney, which is an island way up north in the Highlands. And it's a dark ale which is chocolatey, rich and delicious from Orkney Brewery, and it does look incredible. It smells incredible, but that's pretty much a meal. Let's be honest. I'm gonna have that and be like, well, I'm not gonna need breakfast, so
it's got to be a protein and a protein shake.
Yeah, that actually sounds really good though.
It smells
we
incredible.
We were up in Thurso, like the most northerly town in Scotland, mainland, because we had family up there, and when you go up to all the pubs, they've all got Orkney beers on tap. So you had Dark Island, you've got Corncrake, which is that's a bit lighter, that's drinkable for me. They had another one, another 2, but I always remember seeing those ones. That's what they remind me of.
Yeah, but I want you to do this to kind of understand maybe some point of difference in the beer market. Obviously, Jordan, you coming from Texas, Scotland's heritage with beer is very much ale focused, but we had one of probably the world leaders in the craft beer movement being Brewdog, which has kind of exploded, and they've very much settled now in the States. That's very much their home now, and you've kind of seen the craft beer market go nuts. So, like, to give you an example, looking at the alcohol market before the gin boom, everybody knows what's happened with gin. It was craft beer before that. Craft beer was insane, and I would argue it still is. It's just not nearly at the peak it was. But I'm talking UK stuff, so you might be able to tell us, like, what is the beer market like through your way? Is it as big as gin, or because obviously the UK is very much gin led at the moment?
I think it definitely depends, but as someone who worked like in the craft beer industry, I swear I started at the brewery in 2013. I just turned 21 and I knew like nothing about beer. And it very quickly became to where it's like even now I will almost, not to be like snobby, but like kind of exclusively drink different craft styles because I love the variety and how it's very much so like with wine, you get different things from different areas and you're bringing all of these elements into a beer and it kind of tells a story. And I think a lot of people do love that about craft beer. The more that I've gotten into it, the more that I've started talking with people about it, the more that people are super into it. And so I don't have like numbers to kind of back it up, but I think just seeing more and more things, big like, you know, Anheuser-Busch and like Coors and ABV, like them buying these smaller craft places, I think is a big thing in the industry. And there's points of contention where you've got the people who are like, keep craft, and then you've got the people who are like, this is good for the industry that you're able to more mass produce these things that people love and then distribute them all over to maybe make it a little bit more accessible for people who aren't familiar with what's going on, or they don't know, like, they'll go and they'll order a Bud Light, but they won't know like what a blonde style is, or like IPAs or pale ales or different things like that. So
Cool.
I very much so. I definitely like the industry. I don't think is going away anytime soon, and I truly like. I think that it's gonna keep growing.
How so? Ewan and I always love talking about this, and we're like little kids, and it's the case of when you go to the supermarkets. Obviously, it's mainly larger chain supermarkets, and we're like, it's like, do you know when you take a child to go and get some sweeties? That like craft beer is just the adult version of that, and it's like, I'll pick this one.
Yes.
But what I was going to say is, how much do you think bottle and can design now influences sales? Because when you look at them, like, craft beer cans are insane.
Wild.
Some of the designs.
I think it's really, really important. And I think that's a really cool thing that makes it unique for people. Like, it makes your beer stand out when you've got like a cool can like this, like sitting on the shelf next to like maybe something like just, you know, of course, like Silver Bullet or something. You're kind of like more inclined to be like, well, my eye is drawn here and like, this is what I'm interested in. And like, sure, like I'll give it a shot kind of thing. But yeah, no, I'm the same way. We go to the grocery store and it's like the build your own 6-pack and you get to try all these things and you're like, yes, I cannot wait to get home and do this. So,
do you want to hear something horrible? Sorry, and I'll let you jump in.
I was just saying. You go first.
I was just going to say, because you're talking about like buying like 6-packs and stuff, like build your own 6-pack. This is horrible, and you won't believe this is a thing, but in Scotland, it's illegal to put multi-buy deals on alcohol. We also price 50 pence per unit, which is what's that in dollars? I don't know.
It's no far off 1 for 1 now.
1 for 1, yeah. And we can't multi-deal, so we can't go 5 beers for £6 or whatever. Like, it's literally you pay an individual price, because they tried to drop binge drinking in Scotland because it's got pretty ridiculous numbers. As it's slowing it down, no, people just change the way in which they buy. But anyway, I just wanted to touch on that because it's nuts, like, to have that composite from you guys in the States. Like, it's a case of very much building your own deals. Like, we just can't do that. It's a case of you pay individual pricing, which is nuts. But Ewan, hit us with some beer patter. I know you're a beer ambassador.
One of the things you said, especially when you're at home so much and you're not going to pubs, is when you go to the supermarket and just stand in front of that wall and you think, am I just got to go from left to right or right to left, and you're just going to work your way along and try them all eventually. See, you get all the cans with like these wild prints, but there's something still draws me to like the bottle, just because I don't know if it just looks a bit bigger, looks a bit beefier, more conservative designs, more than a can. Say that, I've got a can next.
I think like that's definitely like everyone is kind of drawn to something. And even like when I was working at the brewery, you kind of learn about like the pros and cons of bottling something in a can versus in a bottle, and the different colors of the bottles, and how that affects the beer and like all that stuff. So, it's totally one of those things where whoever is brewing your stuff like picked a bottle with like a dark brown coloring, because they're like, it's hard for sunlight to get in there, and it's not going to, like, the beer's not going to spoil as easily, or things like that. Like,
I didn't think it like that. It actually serves like a functional purpose. I just thought
it's pretty.
Brown bottles were cheapest really well.
No, it's really interesting because we, one of the first things that they kind of taught us was like, it's really easy to skunk like a Heineken. Basically, if you leave it in the sun too long, the beer is going to be ruined, and it's because of that green bottle. But it's so like iconic to the Heineken brand that they're like, well,
it's true.
Change it.
It's
true. A green bottle. See, this is one thing I thought. See, when you grow up, you drink when you first start drinking when you're like 16.
6?
8,
6?
Yeah.
6, sorry.
Be honest, when did you have your first beer, Craig?
I was probably that young, I can't remember, to be honest, mate.
Can't even remember a thing in my 13th birthday it was when. No, I think first thing you drink is like a beer, because your parents don't want you going out and going nuts. You get a beer when you're younger, but you always start with lager just because it's quite plain. One thing I always remember seeing, we were on holiday once, and my dad seen this big beer mat, and it was a Hobgoblin beer mat. Like Hobgoblin do ales, don't they?
Hobgoblin do loads of ales, mate. I don't know if they're big in the States. Obviously, there's going to be a bit of difficulty with brands, but we'll work it out.
But they had this beer mat, and it said, "What's wrong, lager boy? Afraid you might taste something." And my dad was like, "I'm getting one of them. I'm getting one of them." And then it's true, because all lagers pretty much taste the same. I'll still go get a 12-pack of Stella. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's just every sort of craft beer and IPA taste is a bit different. Quite like that.
Yeah, like, I don't know about you, Jordan, but I just find lager the most basic drink. Like, I can drink it, but it's just like, I sit and drink this and I think there's people in the world, but there's nothing wrong with this, that's what they drink all the time, and they've never experienced an IPA, a stout, a pale ale, a wheat-led beer. Do you know what I mean? It's just nuts to think that's all they've tried with beer, and that's what they associate, because it's like having, I don't know what, a basic white wine, right, and saying, I'm a wine drinker, what do you drink? I drink this white Chardonnay and that's all I drink. I don't try anything else. You're just like, you're like touching like not even 1%.
The surface. Yeah, you're like, okay, you've knocked on the door, but like the door hasn't even been opened for you yet, kind of thing. Like you've tried a little bit, but and that's kind of, I would say, a lot of people, in a way, it's like a great part of the beer industry, right? Like, or even just at all. There's something for everyone. So if you don't want something flavorful, but you're like, I need something refreshing, because there's days like if I've been like, yard work or something, I'm like, I just want like a blonde or like a lager. Like I'm trying to hydrate at this point, but I also need like a little bit of something to take the edge off. But I would definitely say like when I first started like getting into it, like the harder stuff, I'd say the harder stuff, the stouts and the IPAs, like it was definitely more hard for me to sit down and actually enjoy like a pint of it, because I was like, this is so many, like my palate was just like overwhelmed, and I was like, can I just have the little 3% ABV thing on tap? And the owners kind of they joked with me, they were like, are you 21 yet? And I was like, yeah, I just turned 21 like 2 months ago. And they're like, okay.
Number 2 has been opened. There will be heavy editing.
I'm on the late shift.
Oh,
that's Fierce. Now there's a story about Fierce Brewery.
I like that. That looks like the raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Rocket
like
Raccoon, yeah.
Yeah.
We had a very, very, very brief lull in lockdown restrictions, and myself, Craig and Bundy managed to meet up in Edinburgh for a few pints, and we went to the Fierce bar. It's actually pretty good. We got a flight. Is it called a flight?
Beer flight,
mate. Yeah.
So you get like 4 different beers. Bundy's a cider drinker, so you got a cherry cider.
That's why he's not. That's why he's not here today.
Yeah, it was red, but I really enjoyed it. There was only one I didn't like because it was really dark. It was sort of like a
stout
chocolate milkshake consistency.
Oh, there you go.
But no, the rest were all really nice.
Yeah,
I thought about it. So we have like little flight blocks here at our house, and I was like, I thought about being that girl who's like, I know you guys said to bring beer, but I brought 4 beers, and I'm going to like drink them one by one here. And I was like, no, don't be pretentious. Enjoy.
They've got like special beer glasses, so it's like it looks like a candle holder on top, and it's the thin bit at the bottom. Partly it's meant to help you see the colour of it. I didn't know that until we went to Prague.
It's kind of we have so many like glasswares in our, and you probably, Craig, you probably have a similar thing. Like this is like one of my favorites, like a little pint night, but it's like it looks like the like 8-bit Mario, but and it's of like the brewery and everything. It's pretty like funny, but we have so many like the snifter glasses, the like Pilsner glasses, the Nonic glasses. Like we've got them all because like technically each style has a way that is the preferred way of serving it, and so then there's just the good old like pint glass.
Good old
great for everything. Great for everything.
I can't wait for it to go in a glass. I'm just like, oh dear.
Straight out of the can as nature intended.
What I was going to say is you touched on obviously like refreshing beers and stuff when you're working in things like the Yard or the Garden for UK listeners, and it's when we used to play a lot of golf together, and we had something. Now I know Foster's is an American beer, Australian beer, but I'm pretty sure Radler was created by American Beer Trade, was it not?
A Radler is in like a half beer, half like juice.
Lemonade, pretty much. Yeah. Because have you ever tried Foster's Radler? It's only like what, 3%? Is it 2%?
I have not, but yeah, Radlers are normally pretty low. I've never had the Foster's one, but there's a lot of breweries here in definitely in like the Houston area where I am. That do like a seasonal Radler. And the only reason I say juice is because sometimes it's a lemonade, sometimes it's mango, it's pineapples or passion fruits, and like all these different Radler flavors. So that's the only reason I said a juice one.
There was a different one because there was a lime and ginger one as well they done, Craig, because you didn't like it and you gave me them. I remember that.
Oh yeah.
I managed to power through them though, even though I wasn't too keen.
But what
hung in there.
But the thing is, like we talked on about like percentages and stuff when we started, and it's that you can look at it 2 ways. So if you have like a heavy stout, you're only gonna maybe drink 1 or 2 because it's so heavy. But to give you an example, we would do a round at a golf course and it would take us like an hour and a half. We would drink about a case each, because you would just be like juice, and it would just go, and you're like, you either look at the way of this is 2-3%, whatever it is, and I'm going to drink 12 of them, or this is 6% and I'm going to have 2. It's just, I think usually you would think that actually your more Radlers are actually a lot more dangerous because of the way in which you consume them. I just wanted to touch
them 31 really.
But I've seen like, you look at, obviously we only see it from media, but you look at like American petrol stations and supermarkets, even like petrol stations, they have like mass fridges of like not only beer but Radler variants, IPAs, all this sort of thing, and it's nuts. It's kind of like what the UK's done with energy drink. with brands like Monster and Lucozade and that sort of thing, but you guys have done it on a different scale with beer. Like, it's nuts.
Just give us, we're alcoholics over here, but yeah, no. And I think it comes down to distribution. I think it comes down to like, you know, reps who are in charge of like, you know, a gas station being like, you know what, like I've got an incentive on this thing, so let me try to sell in. And I think like it's a great co-op between like distributors and then also like whatever brewery that they're working with to kind of like make it more accessible. But yeah, we've got gas station beer at gas stations.
Oh, it's nuts. But
I don't think you get Radler anymore. Not the Foster's Radler.
No, I've not seen it.
Maybe you do get one. See if you go to Nando's, they do a Radler. I can't remember what the beer is, but you do get a Radler
right
for UK people.
Obviously, we've kind of jumped around stuff. I just wanted to ask, because obviously Ewan hasn't really worked in the alcohol trade, but he very much loves alcohol, probably as much as myself, if not more. I've seen a little bit of the production side, and like my end goal is when lockdown eases, Ewan and I have already discussed this, is to get round some breweries and get some tours and see a bit more of the production. I was just going to ask, obviously one of the main reasons why we've got you on is, could you tell us like a normal day in the brewery? Like what would be a normal day? What sort of stuff would you be doing? What would you see? What would you guys work on?
Is it normal to organise a piss up in a brewery? Because that's a saying.
It kind of depends. So like what I was doing, it was a brew pub that then turned into like a full production brewery. But the thing is, it's like we could help in senses, but like for the most part, because beer is such like there's such a science to it, you need someone who like knows what they're doing like every step of the way. So we had like our brewmaster, and then like one of the owners were like basically the people who did the most of the brewing. I think like, you know, he had an apprentice at one point too who helped him, but it all kind of depends, because most of the time you're not just working necessarily on one beer. Our particular setup, there's one, oh man, let me make sure that I'm getting all of the terminology correct.
That's fine, don't worry.
You got like basically, oh man, someone's gonna come in the comments and be like, she's so dumb. But it's basically that you have to boil it. So you start by putting all of like the ingredients into I want to just say it's called just like the boil like tank.
It's fine.
And so you're like working on it.
Keep it basic. It's fine.
Yeah.
That was that was a shocking pun as well. I do apologise. That was terrible.
Oh wow! You're the first one to complain about them.
No, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're totally good. Maybe it's the mash. Anyway, so you're like you start there, but then you also have things that are in like your fermenters. And so once you're getting things over there, they're sitting just for a number of time until you think like, hey, it's ready to go. This is how I want to serve it. And then it's going into bright tanks where you're either serving it directly from the tank or you're kegging it out of the fermenter. So the timelines are always different, and you have to look at, okay, so this one's going to take me 20 days to make, just as an example. And so, I've got to start it there. It's going to boil for this long. And then I'm going to move it to the mash tun, I think is what's next.
Yep. I'm not saying anything. I'm just being a dick. It's okay.
Oh no. But then like you're moving it through like the situation. So for us, like with what I was doing was mostly bartending and, like as a waitress, but like they took such pride in the product that they were putting out that we were all like Cicerone certified. That was one of the requirements for you. Like you would get hired and then you had 90 days to take the first level like Cicerone, just standard beer handler license. And it was a $90 test, and it was a timed, like you go through and you are answering all these questions, like how do you know, if you're like, how do you know like if the limes are dirty, or if you taste this in your beer, what does that mean? What's the proper way of cleaning a glass? Is a lager top or bottom fermenting? Just like all of these things. And so that was a requirement. So my knowledge is more like on that side, but you would have people who would come in and they'd ask like, oh, cool. So like what's in this tank and like what's in that tank right now? And I mean, it was super cool. Just
I wouldn't don't put yourself down, because what I've seen, predominantly I'm more spirits minded, but it's, yes, you have your master distillers, your blenders, your brewers making the product, but the people who are having that face-to-face interaction, these are the people who make brands. Like, you can make the best beer ever, but if no one's pushing you to try it and explaining it to someone and then linking it to the person's palate, like, you've got no chance. It doesn't matter how good your beer is. You need the right people.
Such a saturated market.
Of course it is.
That's one of the reasons that like they were so adamant about like, hey, we want to make sure you guys know what you're talking about, so that when someone comes in and they ask a question, you're able to like knowledgeably answer it. And so it was something cool, because even to this day, like, you know, if I'm drinking like this, I can look at it and be like, oh, it's got like a nice caramel color. You know, when I poured it, it had 2 fingers of like the head on the top, and then there's not a lot of lace going down the glass. That's probably because my glass is really clean. Like, we don't like, you know, it's a clean glass. And then when you're like starting, you sniff it and you're like, oh, you get like a very malty, like, you know, bread forward, you taste it and you're like, you get notes of biscuit and like bread crust and stuff. Like, that's just this style of beer. And so I still kind of like catch myself, like, if I'm drinking anything, if I try something new, just kind of like things that you just notice. And then you're like, oh yeah, like I really like the mouthfeel of this, or like it's got a low carbonation, but it's all things that enhance like the experience of what you're drinking.
Yeah.
And, you know, when someone comes in and they're like, I've never tried something before, but I like this, it's just one of those things that helps you be able to say like, great, I like that too. And this is what I have that I would recommend based on that. So
yeah, the thing is, like, a lot of people get this misconception that people who understand drinks or what they're talking about can be seen as snobby. One thing you learn, see, when you start to understand processes and flavours and whatnot, like, there's no wrong answer. For example, if I give you a drink and you say this tastes of strawberry when it's not, it doesn't mean it's wrong. It's what you pick up from it. Enjoy what you like. It doesn't matter what people say. Like, people might say, oh, you won't like this because it's heavily rich in coffee, and I don't like coffee. One of the craziest ones, for example, in rum process, there's a banana heavily infused rum called Bamboo, which is starting to get really popular in the UK. It's phenomenal stuff. What a lot of people don't know is it's heavily used with coffee. There's a lot of coffee in it, but you'd never try it. So it's because it's so banana focused. So like,
interesting.
If you are into like trying different beers and stuff, and you see it saying, "Oh, it's chocolate. I don't like chocolate," give it a try. It might be completely different on your palate to someone else. So
it's true, because chocolate, I mean, just as that example, like that can mean so many different things to so many people, and not necessarily like a milk chocolate or like a semi-sweet. It's most of the time it's like a dark kind of like, it's more like that richness that you would associate. And it's true, because like I did feel like a snob for a long time, like after college, and then going, you know, just to like normal, you know, bars or stuff, and you'd be like, okay, well, like, what do you want? What are you looking at? And you say like, oh, like this. Or my favorite in my youthful days was when people would try to like out-beard talk me, and then I'd just like hit them back with like another like, oh yeah, but like I'm not really into, you know, the really floral hops. Do you have something that's more like a Citra? And then be like, oh, let me go ask. And I was like,
somebody just appears out of nowhere and just shouts, "Beer off!"
Right? No, they probably like, fuck this girl.
Yeah,
like,
fuck this.
I don't want to serve her anymore.
I think there, you know how you were speaking about the process and what goes into making it and what can potentially make it go off. I didn't think I'd be able to tell if a beer was off, and I'm only remembering this because we looked at the picture earlier today. Went to Newcastle for a weekend, me and my girlfriend, and I'd say we had a fair amount to drink, and we were about to head back home on the train, and we went for a beer. You know, a Blue Moon? It's like a Belgian ale.
Yeah, Blue Moon's big in the States, isn't it?
Yeah, you normally put like a slice of orange in it. So I thought, oh, brilliant, refreshing. This will get us better. And we sat down at the table with it. She's a lot better at drinking than me, so she started powering through it. And I had a few sips out of it, and I feel ill. I don't know if this is the hangover or if it's off. And I took it to the bar. I'm going to take it because this just doesn't feel right. I took it to the bar, and the guy went 2 seconds. He put a straw in it, took a sample of straw, squirted it in his mouth. Went, that's definitely not right, mate. That's definitely not right. I'll get a new one, or do you want another pint? And I was like, because I was up at the bar, I was sweating. I was like, have I just made a cunt of myself? But no, it was definitely off, and I couldn't believe how bad it tasted. And it came out of tap in comparison to what the best Blue Moon I'll have was.
Yeah, no, I'll take a guess, because like I, even to this day, like if there's a bar that I go to and I order something like that's on draft, I can tell when the lines are dirty, when they haven't been cleaned. like enough, or if they've like switched through several beers without cleaning the lines, because like it does like alter the taste of the beer. And yeah, no, that happened with one of like my favorite beers. It wasn't this one, it was a different one, but we went somewhere and I got a pint and I was like, ooh.
There's nothing.
So I was just like, this just doesn't taste right. And so yeah, I was like walk back. And then normally if I can taste like dirty lines on one beer, I'm like, you probably haven't cleaned the rest of them. And so then at that point, it's best to just order something that's in a bottle.
I'll have a can.
Yep.
What's the best beer you've, like, if you had to pick one beer that's the best one you've had, so one pint or one can, what would it be? And I've got a theory behind this. I'll tell you why. I think it helps if it's on site. Now, I've only got two data points here. So we went to Prague and you get Stapramen, which is from Prague, and it's there. You're sitting out in the sun and it's perfect. My girlfriend went to Ireland, and when she got a Guinness, she said she doesn't normally drink a lot of beer, especially no Guinness, but she went over there and she loved a Guinness. So I reckon when it's on site, maybe less transportation, like you said, maybe less exposure to sunlight, potentially not moved around.
I would say there's probably something to that, especially the less handling, the less like variation in temperatures, and like if it's going into a truck and then if it's moving somewhere else, there's definitely probably something behind
it's
that.
More popular in the sort of place of origin as well. Presumably the pipes are getting used more, so they're cleaner.
Hey,
so that's my theory on having a good beer. So one of my favourites has to be a Stapramen in Prague. That just sticks in my mind.
See, I'm a total loser, and I love like the story behind alcohol, like brands and whatnot, and I love like the occasion. And I think all alcohol does this, especially things like gin and stuff. Like gin is predominantly best drank in the summer, and they're very seasonal. I think beer is such an occasion drink. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing better than grabbing a few drinks, and I'm actually going to touch on this in a little bit, but there's certain occasions that beer just cannot be beaten as a beverage. And the factor is, like, in warm weather, for example, your lighter beers, your lagers, that sort of thing, are completely changed. And for example, then your stouts in sort of colder conditions, you just get such a different mentality. So I couldn't agree more. Like, you go to Prague and have a Prague beer in that occasion, like, it just kind of tells the whole story. Like, for me, and this is totally cheated, mine's is Guinness, right? Where do you think? But it's kind of cheating as well, because I worked for Guinness, and when you see the point of difference from it, it's absolutely mental. Like, Guinness is such an incredible stout. Like, the fact that always gets me, and I think I've told you this about 1,000 times now, there's less calories in a can of Guinness than there is in a glass of orange juice, which is just
something similar to that before, and that it always blows my mind. It always blows my mind.
But
if anyone's out there looking for a new diet plan, just skip the fruit juice and go straight to a can of Guinness for your breakfast.
Look how well it's worked on me.
What could go wrong?
But
consumer advice, didn't take it for us.
Consumer advice. But see, the thing I find is with stout as a beer, it's not my favourite type of beer, but it's such a point of difference. Like, there's nothing really close to it, and that creamy texture is so iconic to Ireland as a country. It was absolutely sensational. And just to touch on, I think Guinness as well, when you guys were talking a bit about like buying beers that were dirty lines, etc., and not quite right. I unfortunately had, my dodgy beer was Guinness. Now, bear in mind, Guinness is full of protein, it's creamy. I had a sour Guinness, like, I mean sour, and honestly it was the worst thing I think I've ever tasted. But no, I think it was, mate, honestly it was absolutely horrendous. But the big thing is with Guinness, the whole occasion, the story behind it, it's just surreal. And the way, like, Jordan, you touched on it already, like the attention to detail, how you pour, what glass you serve in, what temperature, all these sort of things. The whole thing about the double pour, allowing it to settle, it's just cool. Like, as much as it might not make a massive impact in the drink for some people, it's just such a cool story, and it kind of gives you that whole package. So I as much as there's a really gimmicky answer, I have to say Guinness, just because of the whole story and way in which it's done. What about you, Jordan? That might have been
one of the first house party drinks we had at Bundy's. Now I remember it, because his dad used to drink Guinness, so it was warm cans of Guinness from the cupboard.
That's like a 3-course meal in a can.
I don't think that Guinness is like a necessarily gimmicky answer. I think like Guinness is what it is because of like I think it's like a very easy one that people just go and they associate with like good times at the pub with their friends. And it's so just like, it's like a comfort beer almost, I think, for so many people. Like Guinness for the longest time was like my husband's favorite beer. And even now, like that's, if there's nothing, like if he's looking at like a limited menu, he's like, I'll just have a Guinness. Like we have, I guess we do have Guinness in our fridge right now. I could have just like had one of those today, but no, I couldn't have because that's not an American beer. But yeah,
you just
no. Frank told me, he said you need to have an American beer. You're American.
And you also have to go America. Or it doesn't count. But
yeah, I would say like my favorite. It's very similar. I guess kind of to your answer. My favorite beer that I have ever had it's called Rocket Fuel. And it's from a brewery here in Houston called Eighth Wonder, and it is a Vietnamese coffee porter. And it's either you can have it normal or carbonation, but they also have it on nitro. And
sorry, what's nitro?
Nitro is basically, so instead of carbonating it with CO2, which is like what gives you like the bubbles and all of that,
nitrous oxide
with nitrogen. Yeah, so like it's like a Guinness. So like it's got those tiny bubbles. That's just, it makes that texture so much more like thick and kind of like creamy. And so that's my absolute favorite. I am such like a hoe though for coffee porters. Those are like, I will drink them. It's 100 degrees outside. I'm like, give me the coffee porter. I can't not order a coffee porter if I see it on the, like that's it. And the brewery that I worked at had like an incredible one. But this one was like probably my favorite because it's got a nice like subtle sweetness to it, but also like the Vietnamese coffee and then the porter, like the malt is just
So Jordan, you touched on carbonation. This is where I turn into total drinks geek, because one of the last things I've done before leaving the drinks industry was dealing with tonic water, ginger ale, sort of really premium spirit enhancers.
Yeah.
I still feel like a dick for saying that.
That's a wanker phrase.
It's a wanker. That is a tweed jacket phrase, that one, Ewan. But what you're talking about with carbonation, it's mental how much it affects drink as a whole, not just beer. But when you're talking about carbonation, the likes of like the lower temperature that you carbonate at decreases the size of the bubbles, and obviously the smaller the bubbles, the slower carbon dioxide is released from the drink. The quicker carbon dioxide is released, the quicker you lose flavour. It's mental. Like, it's crazy how much of an impact it has.
The science behind something as simple as like, how is your drink carbonated? And then even how is that carbonation consumed by, whoever is buying it? Like that, it's crazy. Like I know there's in a different capacity, I guess there was a study done on like why Coca-Cola at McDonald's tastes so much better. And it's because they have special straws that are wider so that you get more of the carbonation and more of the drink like on your palate at the same time. And that's why people are like, oh, soft drinks are better at McDonald's, is because of the way it's the same kind of thing. But it's like, it's just the way that how carbonation is so important to the final taste of whatever product that you've got. So
cool.
This is an education for me.
Ewan's just sitting here saying, I'm using this as an excuse to drink beer, which is cool.
The comments are gonna like just set me on fire and be like, she's absolutely wrong. She just made it up. And I read it somewhere. Read it somewhere.
I did see the article. Even in Gladby one UK posted it, but I'd imagine most of the reviewers will be like, I like a can and I prefer it when it's cold.
I like a can and Bundy shouting abuse at me, but that's another story. But the carbonation stuff's mental. Apart from ice melting, carbonation is the key to the longevity of a drink. If you have bad carbonation in a drink, it's the quickest way to lose taste, flavour, all that sort of thing, which is absolutely mental.
I get the ice melting thing now. I
just seen Ewan's brain going, what? He's going into drink mode. But I've actually just opened my second one, and I've went for my beer from Stirling, which is more central Scotland, and it's better than Twisted, and it's a golden ale, which is an old friend of Ewan and I's. It used to be his favourite. Zesty, aromatic and citrus, so I've went from the complete polar opposite to a stout. So there you go.
Is the other one they do called Schiehallion?
Schiehallien's the company. Chahalian's a brewery, yeah.
They do a beer called Chahalian. That's probably my favourite.
Yeah. Chahalian's their main beer. It's all harvesting, yeah. Sorry, that was
I love that. That's probably my favourite one from there.
Yeah, but moving on. Jordan, you touched on it at the start and we didn't actually talk about it enough. Tell us about Basicwitgirl Beer. Like, how did that become a thing? Like,
where did we get that, actually?
Well, yeah, it'd be good to try.
So Basicwitgirl, and that was like, just once again, going back to the brewery that I worked with, they were so like passionate about making sure that like the staff like felt involved and also passionate about the product. And so they would let you like make suggestions for like they do like a one-off like every weekend in like the summer and then during like college football season, and they'd release like all these different things. And so my suggestion was Basicwitgirl. It was a wit beer, and originally I had requested raspberry as like the fruit to be added into it, and brewmaster was like, I'm never gonna brew with raspberry. It's a pain because of all the seeds and like all that stuff. He's like, I'm never brewing with raspberry, like pick something else. And so I was like, all right, then like cherries. And so he was like, great, that sounds perfect. Let's do it. Let's make this beer. And so I think it was after one of my shifts one time, they let me like drink for free, but I think I sat in a corner of the brewery with like this old rusty like can opener, just like opening all of these cans of like sour cherries to eventually, I think it was like 30 pounds worth of sour cherries that they brewed this wit beer with. And I don't like Hefeweizens. I'm not a big like banana and clove in my beer kind of person, but I love a wit beer where you get like that coriander and it's not like a cloudy kind of thing. So anyways, orange zest and coriander and these sour cherries. And so that was my beer. I came up with the name because I was like, this is something that all the basic white girls who come to our college town brewery, who would come in and they'd order, hey, what is a, something like a Dos Equis or like a very light beer. Like, what can I get that's similar to that? And it's not really necessarily like that, but my idea was like something that was very approachable and delicious. And so someone who didn't know anything about craft beer, you could be like, this is a light beer with cherry notes and you should try it. And it was a hit. It sold out in like a day. And I was actually out of town the weekend that they released it in Missouri, and I was so upset. And they had this whole thing about like not filling growlers with it because too many people would try to just come and take the whole small batch and you wouldn't get to like sell it. And I was like, please make an exception. Let my boyfriend, my husband now, get me a growler of this beer. And they did. And so I did get to try Basicwitgirl, and it was delicious, I guess, gotta say.
There's a few points I wanted to raise. First was, someone told me the amount of fruit you need to actually flavour a beer is like completely disproportionate. Like, you have no idea how much fruit needs to go in to get just a little hint of it in a beer.
It's so crazy. Like, that was like a small batch that they did. Like, it wasn't even a full like serving tank full. It was like a one day they brewed it and then they had it in a keg, and that was like, it was 30 pounds of cherries to fill up like a keg.
Yeah, and then
smart.
I've got two other points. One is Dos Equis. I was told that's the best Mexican lager you can get. One of my friends went to Mexico and he said, I don't know if I'm associating it with the place, but I think Dos Equis is my favourite lager now. And I couldn't find it anywhere. It's got like the 2 or 3 red X's on front of it on the label.
2, because Dos
is 2.
Dos 2.
There we go.
Dos X.
As I say, it's an education, this episode. And we had a day out in Edinburgh. Me and my girlfriend were walking down a street and we seen a Mexican restaurant. She said, do you want to go in? I was like, I'm not big on Mexican food. Seen in the window they had Dos Equis. And I was like, right, we might as well try it, we're here. So we went in, and it was really nice. And the last point, growler. So I've got
wow, that has another term in Scotland, but we'll say
that.
We'll explain that off stream to you. Yeah, that's right.
It's not. It's when your boyfriend comes home with a growler.
Have you guys seen a growler before?
I've had one, yes. And I didn't know what it was.
No, not whatever it means for you. Whatever it means for me.
It's about 4 pints, Craig. 4 pints worth. and usually it takes about 4 pints before you would consider. Anyway,
Stop this.
it's like a 4-pint jug. I know someone who got me a growler of a certain beer that was great.
Professionalism. It's fine.
I don't even
We've
know
got
what
this.
it means.
We'll tell you
I
after, and it'll be really funny.
Oh no!
Oh, in fact, no, we can give the PC version that they gave on Top Gear, because they talked about a car being named the Growler and they were all laughing. They said it was like a particularly unmaintained lady garden.
That's what it is? Oh!
And you just said your husband came home with one.
Oh!
We're never getting a guest again, you know this, Ewan, yeah. Wow.
No.
I think 4 pints. Moving on, I think 4 pints is a good quantity to decide if you like a beer.
Anyway, so if you were to make a beer to characterise you as a person, what would it be like? Ewan, would you like to take this? It wouldn't be a growler, but...
Would it be in a pint or a growler?
Stop it. No, let's move away from this. This is going to get horrendous.
Let's see.
If you're making a beer, what is it like? Talk me through it.
I'm a big fan of the lighter, more refreshing ones, so we'll go with that.
Stop this. My dad will listen to this.
Since she said that, I thought, didn't even crack a smile because
I seen your face. I seen your face. I was like, he's going to go.
We'll add the clip of the Top Gear Growler thing later. But anyway, so I'd go something light and refreshing, like I heard somewhere that when you put grapefruit in a beer, typically it's because the beer fucked up and it was to cover something up. But I kind of like it. I would probably go either a high alcohol content lager or like a blonde ale or a pale ale. That would be my choice.
So it needs to represent you. So you're telling me you're fruity and blonde. Cool, that's fine. That's not a wrong answer, mate. That's absolutely fine. What about you, John? Do you think Basic Wit was a good representation of you, or do you think if you could make something based upon your personality, it'd be different?
Say Basic Wit Girl is always like, it's gonna be like so close to my heart forever. I don't know, like if I were to revisit something today though, I would probably pick something more malty, because that's like really what I enjoy now and what I drink literally like year round. So I would say I would probably make mine some sort of like a dark roast, like coffee porter. I don't think I'd go as far as like barrel aging it or anything like that. I would definitely say though, like maybe like a hint of raspberries that I never got that first time around.
Making up for lost
As bad as it was, opening all the jerry cans, imagine de-seeding all the raspberries.
Oh, you'd go nuts.
I don't think that you possibly can. I think you just have to, you brew it and then you have to strain it through like super fine like mesh strainers.
That would take a while.
It would take a minute, but yeah, I would say like I would say that, because coffee for me like is such a comfort. I will drink coffee at like any point of the day, and I think it is for a lot of people's. And I like to think that me and like my stream stuff is kind of like a people's like comfort place. So I'm gonna go with like a nitro coffee porter with a little kiss of raspberry.
Nice.
Wait, what would it be served as? Like, would it be in a can or a bottle or a pint glass, ideally?
Ooh, I think you gotta go pint glass for something like that. So to really get like the whole like aroma, you want to like, that's part of the experience, is like being able to smell like the flavors that you're not necessarily tasting.
I'll go a can for the noise. Love the noise of a can open.
That is the national noise of the Time In podcast, is a can cracking open. But I've got balls.
I've started on number 3, by the way.
Oh, I'm still 2.
A wee home game.
Oh,
Brewdog Elvish juice.
Brewdog Elvish.
A wee 6 point.
Oh, he's dropping it all over himself. For anyone watching on YouTube, gets to watch that spill all over him right now.
That's so
This might be the end, but
that's what you get.
That could be the end,
of me for saying growler. All right.
Wow, this is definitely the end, but
you absolutely now have to.
My growler's getting soggy.
Oh no, this is too long an end, but. Stop Stop it, you animal. Well, anyway, my
eyes are ringing.
Elvish juice is infused with grapefruit.
Yeah, that's. See, I really liked it. It's still dripping. I really liked it, and it was when I listened to a podcast about beer, and they said typically they would use grapefruit to cover up a beer that had typically went wrong and wasn't. It needed a bit of sweetening, and this seems to neutralise it. So I'm not arguing with it. I like it.
I want to do this differently. Ewan, sensibly now. Yep. If you had to make a beer for me, what would it be like? Ooh.
It would be red in colour. I know that. So it would be like not like a ruby ale, but maybe like maybe
like
a red ale.
I love
like a red ale or a ruby
red
ale.
American ale is my favourite type of beer.
I know it would be red. So if we say ruby American ale, I reckon it would be a high percentage. I'm saying maybe like a 6 minimum. It's going to be like a beer. But
what's it like? Sorry.
A beer. You have to lower your voice when you go above 6%. Like this isn't a brew dog. This is a brew dog.
A brew dog.
A brew dog. No, I would say that would probably be yours. It'd probably quite a dark red. That's how I picture it.
What would be in it?
And a pint tumbler.
And a pint.
What notes would you get from it? What kind of flavored profile?
I feel like whenever you see a red one, the best ones I've had some kind of cherry in them, even if it's like the slightest hint, but you get a bit of cherry in it. But if you can picture a light Guinness but with cherry, imagine somebody to water down a Guinness with light cherry juice. That's what I'm picturing.
That actually sounds quite...
And not a pint glass, a pint tumbler.
A pint tumbler. I love how you categorise me as an old man with a fruity touch. That's probably a good way to describe me. And I don't know what you guys think about this. I am obsessed with the seaside. Like, I love the sea. Good noise, by the way, whatever that was. That was a good noise. Can cracked. Straight away, it's like Spidey vision. I'm like, what? What was that? Spidey sense, sorry. But I'm obsessed with all things to do with the sea, right? I love seafood. I love that whole idea. I love being beside the sea. When I die, I want to be left at the sea, right? Just let me go in there, let me float about, do my thing. That's where I'm happiest, right?
See Craig in his 70s. He's go down to the beach and lie on the sand waiting for the tide to come in.
Anyway, I would love to play about with a salty texture, like salt and beer. I would love to play about with that. Because for things like, for example, mezcal, tequila, salt is such a good addition and it works so well. I'd love to just... It's probably done. It will have been done, actually, but I'd like to do... like
salted caramel, heavy. That pings in my head when you say salt. Salted caramel.
Have you had a goza before?
No.
Oh, you might really like a goza.
Right.
It's GOSE is the style, but it's like a sour, salty beer.
I need to try it, but certainly
if you're ever like presented the opportunity, there's a lot here in like our city because there's we're very close to like the ocean. So if there's a way for me to necessarily maybe send you something, let me know.
We need to do a trade. We'll need to do it.
Dude, I would love to do a trade so much.
Yeah, we'll do a trade. But I love talking about beer, and it's been awesome talking to the two of you about beer. I could do it all night, but I think it's only fair to touch on how your career has kind of moved away from brewery work. So do you want to give us a little insight to what you're doing now, Jordan? A wee transition. What are you doing now? Except drinking beer at 2:00.
I drink beer in the afternoons. That's my job now. God, I wish. That sounds like such a nice, like, I was always envious of the beer reps who would come to visit and then they'd be like, oh, like they would just sit and drink in the afternoon with like the owners and they'd try all these new things. But that's besides the point. So I'm currently a full-time Twitch streamer. So I was working in a corporate office for about 4 years after all of my fun beer life that I lived in college. I went and excuse me. I worked in a corporate office for like a sports and outdoors store, and I was furloughed during COVID last April, and so I took a chance and I started streaming. It was something that my husband had been bugging me about, like giving a shot for a while. And so, yeah, I started doing that. I was doing that full time while I was furloughed. I got called back to work and I hated it. I hated being back in an office. I hate having to like answer to people. Going from being able to full-time like make my own schedule and create content and stuff like that, and then going to back to having to basically like answer to somebody. I couldn't do it, and I did it for about 2 months. I got called back from work, and then I was working full-time during the day, and then I'd stream at night, and I saw enough growth and enough success behind it that I've been streaming full-time. Again, I left my job at the end of July, and I've been streaming full-time because I chose to since then. So
that's all for taking the leap. That's all for taking that leap.
Balls to make that jump. It takes big balls to make that jump.
I could not do it without the support of my husband. He literally, December 2019, he was bugging me about, hey, you should try streaming on Twitch. You should try. I think you'd be really good. And I was like, nah, I don't have time. I can't commit to that. I don't think I'm funny. And I had no excuse once I like was furloughed from my job. And I was like, well, he helped me like get my computer set up. He helped me like get everything, up and high quality and stuff like that. Like even now he does so much. And his job, he's a wine rep. And so
won the wine. Sorry, that's another episode, but I love wine. We've learned so much, but he sells wine to grocery stores, and the fact that bars are closed here in Texas, people are getting all of their alcohol at grocery stores and liquor stores, and he's killing it. So that's a big reason.
He sounds like the American Craig.
Well, I'll have you know, we were in it was one of Jordan's community nights, and Jordan's husband controls it, if you know what I mean, brings people in and out, switches people in and out of games, because it was Among Us, so you obviously can have a certain amount of people, so it's queued, making it fair for everyone. And I messaged Jordan, I was like, see the guy managing that, he was so nice, we just sat and talked about wine, and he was so friendly, and she was like, yeah, that's my husband. And I was like, he was so cool, like, I was just like, you're American Craigie.
Yeah, no, he's so dope. We literally, him and I met working at that bar in college, and so it's one of those things where like we kind of knew right off the bat that like, hey, we've seen each other through a really shitty shift or two at work. We were friends beforehand, and this kind of just like made sense and works. And he's so supportive. He's incredible, and he lucky got to stay in the alcohol industry while I went corporate. But now, who's the lucky one? I stream video games for a living, so
can I just put this into context, and like, Ewan knows how much this will mean to me. You get paid to play Skyrim.
I do. I do right now. Skyrim, my first playthrough was like one of my first solo streams by myself, because when we had done a couple things with like friends in the evenings, and when I was the only one who didn't have a job, it's like, well, I should stream during the day. And the first game I'm going to play is Skyrim, and I'd never played it before, but I was like, it's something that I've known about forever, and I should absolutely, like, I want to try it out. I want to check it out. And now, like, I mod it to filth, and it breaks on me sometimes. Todd does not want to bless me with a good stream, a good game. I had issues with it on yesterday. But you know what? That's okay. I heard you guys commenting on like my setup. I very quickly started playing Skyrim. So
I rate that.
Do you know what's funny? I still remember how we actually met. We were building a little community when we first started, and predominantly it was mostly UK guys, and it was one night we were stream jumping pretty much, and we were flicking through loads of people, and obviously we were picking game categories. And me being me, I am the biggest Skyrim fanboy you'll meet. And we jumped on Skyrim, and it was on your streams, and I'll never forget it. You were doing the Mages Guild stuff. By the way, anybody who's listening to this for a beer episode, I'm sorry, that's gone now. But
we're talking Skyrim now.
And then you were doing the Mages Guild stuff, and I came on, I was watching, I was like, yeah, she's quite entertaining. And then do you know how annoying it is to watch someone do something and not know what they're doing, and you're like screaming through like, just fucking hit the wall? And I was like typing like a maniac, like use magic on a wall, and you were like screaming at your screen, you're like, I don't know what to do, I'm stuck. I was like, fucking hit the wall.
I know exactly what you're talking about, the stupid runes I know exactly what you're talking about. I was like, I picked up this amulet, and I'm like, now what?
And I'm like screaming at you. And
I
that's
don't feel bad. I've played it before, and I streamed it on our joint channel, and I had him phoning me like, "You're not fucking doing it right. You're taking ages to get around this fucking mountain. And he was sitting drinking when he was watching me. I was like, oh my god, the pressure here. But for what it's worth, if your husband watches and he ever wants a divorce, sounds like Craig's up for a marriage as well.
well, it's a bit of a commute, but you never know.
Man.
But I just wanted to touch on the Twitch stuff because obviously you started about the same time as us, similar idea with furlough and stuff, and the growth that you've had is pretty exceptional,
exponential.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And don't be modest. Like, you've worked really hard. You've done like 7-hour streams and stuff. That is not easy to do, and you've had a structured schedule now for what's that, in months? 9 months, 10 months, maybe.
Yeah, I just had someone resubscribe for their 10th month.
Well,
they must be like an OG. They must be like a
No,
one, sorry.
Absolutely, it is. It's someone who like I know in real life who's like a friend from college of mine. We all started streaming at the same time, and so he's like one of my mods. And so as soon as I hit affiliate, he was my first person to subscribe to me, and he loves to rub that in my husband's face that he's like, I subscribed to your wife before you did. But yeah, no, he subscribed for the 10th month, and so it's crazy though. It has been very insane. I've gotten a lot of support. I think the Skyrim community, just like the Elder Scrolls community as a whole, is just like unreal. And I think that starting with that, building a community around I'm not good at games, but I'm going to try to be entertaining while also not being good at games. I think it's helped
very similar to our brand.
But yeah, so like I did that, and then I've done The Witcher 3, and I think I have my last Red Dead Redemption 2 stream tomorrow.
Jeez.
But by the sounds of it, you've got quite a big gap between, you've done your sort of games here.
Mm-hmm.
Elder Scrolls 6, there's probably a bit of a gap if we're being honest. I mean, Craig may be in a home by that point, so we were talking about bridging the gap with ESO.
I wasn't going to open my third beer, but you've said Elder Scrolls 6, so there you go. Third beer open, we're going for Punk IPA.
Oh, there's skills. Skyrim has been the consistent thing through my channel. Every time I basically start a new RPG, I've started a new Skyrim character as well. So I am now I'm wrapping up my 4th Skyrim character.
Good number.
And I'll probably be starting my 5th one pretty soon.
Rookie numbers.
Oh, it is rookie numbers.
I'm only joking.
I've gotten, I think, max like level 40 on a character before. Like inevitably we have like a stream send off where we go like get them married and then like move them into a house and then like adopt a kid, and then we're like, all right, see you later, it's time to start someone else.
And Farkas is a poor choice as a husband, I'm just saying.
Farkas is my favorite vanilla husband choice.
Sorry, you're not sure what you're saying.
I was going to say, have any of the two of you played Morrowind or Oblivion?
I've played Morrowind, not Oblivion, and I know it's sacrilege, and I'm sorry.
No. Are you? No. I'm waiting because I started my gaming career so late. I am too much of a, how do I say this? Snob for graphics. And so I have not done Morrowind or Oblivion because I'm like, I can't look at those games. I cannot look at them.
If Sky Oblivion comes out, Oblivion in the Skyrim engine, would you play it?
Oh, absolutely. No, I follow a lot of the devs working on it. They kind of like follow me back. So like they...
Wait. You get followed by Sky Oblivion devs.
We follow one, and we actually spoke about getting on for an episode, but he didn't follow us back, so yeah. That's fine. That's okay. Tell us about that, Jordan.
He's not getting to see the growler.
Well,
fact.
I'll send you a message.
Okay.
We can.
It would be awesome to get something like that, because the amount, myself and Bundy, one of the two games we got Xbox 360 for. Bear in mind we were PlayStation players before that. We bought Xbox 360 for Halo 3 and for Oblivion. They were the two games I got with my Xbox 360. Same with Bundy, same with our other friend that played at school. I remember playing through it, and we were like, you know what? See if this was more open, and if you could play with other players and stuff. 10 years down? Oh, Jesus. It might be 20 years down. No, 15 years down the line, I was like, oh my god, it's actually here. It's
Don't say
all
20.
years
I was
I've
like, how old does that make me?
I was doing the maths and I was like, oh, it can't be 20, surely.
No,
Having
no.
a crisis.
Oh, no.
I think it's 15. Jeez, that's still no good.
Yeah,
Here I'm sitting in my box of
Like,
drinking beer.
the Elder Scrolls community is wild, and they are so loyal to it, and they are so. That was one of the things, like, going into it, that I was a little bit afraid of, because it does have such a passionate, loyal follower base, and I was like, are they gonna hate me trying to play this game? Are people gonna tune in and be like, you're playing it wrong? It's been nothing but, like, people who are supportive and being like, oh, what kind of build are you doing? Oh, that's so cool. This is my favorite one that I've done. Or, like, I'm very open to having people backseat my games, especially if I beat it before. So, like, Skyrim, there's not a lot of, like, there's modded quests that I haven't done before, but when it comes to, like, main story, I basically know what's going to happen. And so I'm so open to people saying, like, hey, you could do this and it's really cool and it affects things this way. Or, like, if you finish the Civil War before you go to the Greybeards for your party, like, that has an impact. I call it the pizza party with the Greybeards, because it's a peace party, but I call it a peace pizza party with the Greybeards.
There's one question now. Unfortunately, now I'm obviously not going to dwell on this too much, because
Let's be honest, it's the reason he's not here tonight.
Yeah, well, this dramatically changes our friendship if you get this wrong.
Uh-oh.
Stormcloaks are Imperial, so you need to answer.
Okay. Hear me out. I recognize that Skyrim belongs to the Nords. However, if you want the best for Skyrim and you read the Thalmor dossiers on Ulfric Stormcloak, you'll realize that he's kind of a little, like, sleeper agent. And, like, if you want the best for Skyrim, you kind of have to go Imperial. Technically, it's better. The Thalmor want the Stormcloaks to win. It's true. Go read the book.
I mean, I'll give you one thing in your defence. You made a great point before, because Skyrim has so many different avenues you can go down. Craig told me about 10 different Easter eggs about it, including the notch pickaxe, because I know he's a Minecraft geek.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you don't go with the fucking Stormcloaks...
No, here's the deal. I'm with you. There's a lot. Here's the deal. The Stormcloaks, I don't agree with the whole no worship of Talos. I don't agree with, like, the whole invading of Skyrim. However, the Thalmor are a bunch of jerks, and
they're fucking funded by the Imperials.
No. You gotta go. No, you gotta go when you're saving. When you're saving the person, and you get the dossier on Esbern and Ulfric and all those people, you'll realize that the Thalmor are manipulating the Imperials. They want the Stormcloaks to win so that there is more of a cataclysmic separation between Skyrim. I don't know. Listen, I shouldn't be lecturing you on this, but I have been told time and time again, the Thalmor, Ulfric Stormcloak is a Thalmor sleeper agent.
Ulfric Stormcloak is the wrong leader.
Bundy is a filthy Imperial. I agree. Ulfric's the wrong leader. He's sort of like the Trump of the North. Is that a nice way of saying it?
God, I don't think that you can say the Trump of anything and it be a nice thing.
So we've talked about beer, Skyrim, and now Trump.
We've got the clickbait now.
But that's a YouTube thumbnail and fucking hashtags done. But no, I just wanted to say, obviously the beer stuff's been awesome as well, but the work you've done in Twitch is really admirable, and we are more than happy to obviously say that check Jordan out at Basicwitgirl. Her streams are far superior to us. She's got
You guys are too kind. But, like, literally, Craig, like, you've been so, like, awesome in my community. Like, first of all, helping me in Skyrim, but then, like, the community days and just being, like, a great, like, friend across the pond that I never would have gotten to meet with, like, if it hadn't been for Twitch. We wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for Twitch. And
I know.
It's something that I'm so thankful for, like, every day.
Yeah, well, I'm going to use the powers of editing for anyone watching on YouTube. So Jordan's socials are here,
Hold on.
Yeah.
You done that for the animal tier list.
Fuck off! Don't bring that. Fuck off!
And
I made one mistake, and you're going to shit on me in that for the next fucking month, right? So our socials are here, and here.
Through the powers of edit, and I was like, "Oh, here we go!
Oh, it's coming! The powers of edit."
Oh,
he's fucked
he's forgot. He's missed it.
Well,
that
I'm
made
not
me laugh
missing.
more than if you had included even a cartoon image.
Fuck off. But yeah, no, honestly, it's been awesome chatting to you, not only about beer but streaming. Keep up the good work.
I actually learned about 5 things during this episode,
and he
which
doesn't
is more than I would typically learn in a day of school.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And it's been a good excuse to just drink beer and chill out, and hopefully it's not the last. You'll need to let us know next time you have a community night.
Absolutely. I would love that.
If you want it absolute carnage, I can bring the other 2 members.
Please,
Computer, I can play now.
I would love that so much. I want to say one more thing. I have verbally said on my channel that if we're able to make partner before the end of 2021, I will get a Skyrim tattoo. I have no tattoos, but it was something that I said we were gonna get a Skyrim tattoo if we make partner by 2021.
Wait, like the logo?
No. We were gonna either do, and I say we. I was either gonna get Fusroda in dragon on my inner lip, or the blade of woe like here on my my forearm.
As a disclosure,
Huh.
I've heard a story about someone, I won't disclose who had a Skyrim tattoo, and it was dragon speech, and they had a band around their arm written in dragon language.
Talking about, and I know I've seen it, and that's why I know that somebody here in this call will appreciate a good Elder Scrolls tattoo.
This is why I'm wearing a long sleeve polo.
I know someone who has a band of dragon language around their arm, and when they go in,
Foom, you prick, it's foom.
hold on. When that someone, we won't disclose who, obviously, went on a night out, and some seemingly crazy person went, "Here, mate, I know what that says. It's in Arabic." They went, "Actually, no, it's in dragon speech." And all of a sudden, it switched, and the person with the tattoo was the weirdo, and the bit of the strange one. I mean, again, I won't say who.
No, things like that. Listen, we're not gonna tattoo shame here on this channel. If you want to get a nerdy tattoo, you do it. Whatever makes your
wait,
heart happy.
what would you say if the same person had a tramp stamp?
I don't have
Good
a tramp
for
stamp,
you.
you fucking prick.
Oh, you've exposed your identity there.
But I was going to say, like, out of all the tattoos I've got, it's the one I regret the least, because it's now, I've got it fixed, so it now looks like it's mirroring each other, and I love it, because I love that idea that it doesn't look like a gaming tattoo, but I can go up to someone and they're like, "Oh, that's really cool," and you always get somebody going, "I know what that means," and it's always funny when you're in a bar and stuff, because like, "That's fucking Egyptian," and I'm like, "Yeah, yes it is. I am not a grown man with a dragon language tattoo." So,
You know what? Own it. I say be who you want to be.
be who
Something
you want to be.
recognises that you know you want to be friends with them, though. So it's
I
a
know.
nice filter.
I know, but anyway, I think that's a good point to wrap up. Guys, thank you for joining me. Jordan, thank you very, very much for jumping on again. It's been...
No, thank you so much for having me.
It's been...
I really do appreciate it. Like the first time you had me on just for like a little bit, like that meant the world to me. And so the fact that you, first of all, just remembered our conversation, and then also were like, "Hey, do you want to come back and talk about beer?" It means a lot, and I do really appreciate it.
No, it's awesome to have you. Your beer knowledge is very different to ours, and it's really cool to get a different perspective on it as well. So it fits in perfectly, because we're obviously working on something more beer related, which we'll not give away this week. But
It's a great excuse to drink.
it's just a great excuse to drink. But for everyone who's tuned in, thank you very much. This has been the Time In Podcast, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Cheers.
Guys, can I show you my growler?
It's a big one. Oh.
We're going to hell.